In this video, we're going to talk about 8 times when cops got owned by educated citizens. So let's get right to it. 1. A guy entered a federal building and just asked a cop for his name and badge number.
How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Can I get your name and badge number, please?
You can have my badge number.
The cop instantly got nervous and aggressive and told him that he only needs to give him his badge number. He then proceeded to ask why the guy was in the building. The guy didn't want to answer that because he knew that he wasn't legally required to do so. The cop continued to be aggressive, while the guy wanted to refer to the DHS memo from 2008. The cop kept threatening the guy to throw him out, but the guy knew all too well that he wasn't going to do that.
Judgment call whether you could be here or not. And if not, I'm going to throw you out.
You're not going to touch me, that's for sure.
The cop then handed him a memo on First Amendment auditors, which the guy never claimed to be. The guy accused the cop of acting like a tyrant, which was when the cop calmed down. Then a special agent started talking and immediately offered this guy to see her credentials. The guy explained to her that he was in a publicly accessible area and that he wasn't doing anything illegal. He added that he had the right to film government officials.
Employees, but I have a right to film government employees in the course of their duty, and the DHS memo.
The special agent obviously realized by then that the guy knew his business, so she patiently listened to what he had to say and then walked away. 2. A guy was just filming in the post office, but the employees there didn't like that, so they called the cops. When a female cop arrived at the scene, she told the guy that he needed to leave. She was more than willing to give him her name, but she took a while before she gave him her badge number.
I'm sorry, can you just say your name and your badge number?
I can tell you I'm Officer Devers, this is Officer Krause, and I appreciate your videotaping everything, but the post office...
The guy then asked for her supervisor because she had no jurisdiction on that property. He then asked another cop for his name and badge number, but he just ignored him at first, before he finally told him. The guy then explained once again that he wasn't doing anything illegal, but the cops put him in handcuffs anyway, and ripped the camera out of his hand.
You're under arrest.
I was ready to leave.
The guy then revealed how they put the handcuffs so tight that they cut off circulation to his hands. We also learned that they put him in the back of their cruiser on an 85-degree day with all the windows rolled up. It seems like the cop didn't like being educated by this guy, so they decided to take revenge on him. 3. Next up, we have a guy who was just filming content for his story when 2 cops came up and one of them approached incredibly close to him. When the guy told him to step away for a bit, he refused, basically saying that he was going to do whatever he wanted. The guy asked him for his name and badge number, which the cop gave after a lot of hesitation.
It's not private. Is it owned by the parish?
The guy then explained that the establishment was owned by the parish, making it public property. The cop sighed and told to himself that the guy was one of those types. The cop then gave the guy a lawful order to step away from the property. When the guy didn't want to do it, the cop asked for his ID.
ID on you?
What do I need to get my ID for?
So I can say that I spoke to somebody?
The guy then asked what crime he committed, and the cop couldn't do anything about it except sigh once again, after realizing that he was getting educated by this guy. 4. Here a cop wanted to see this guy's ID and fishing license, but the guy gave him a free lesson in law instead. He first cited Florida Statutes Chapter 379 that pertains to Fish and Wildlife Commission officers. He then explained very clearly that he had a fishing license and that he was clearly going fishing.
I do have a valid fishing license and I'm clearly going fishing under 901-151.
Then this very educated citizen explained to the cop that under 901.151, he doesn't have to identify himself unless he committed a crime or was suspected of committing a crime or he was about to commit a crime. After some more explaining, the guy handed his fishing license to the cop. He then asked the cop once again what crime he committed, to which the cop replied that he was just doing an investigation. When the cop told him that he had to identify him because he didn't know if he was a convicted felon, the guy actually pulled out a case file, Florida versus JL.
This is the federal case law. This came straight out of Florida. It actually came out where I live. I know
which stated that the cop didn't have reasonable suspicion to identify the man, and the case failed at court. While the cop was checking that out, another cop showed up. After the guy explained everything very clearly to him as well, he finally let him go. 5. A guy was stopped by these cops because he was in a police parking lot. When he told them that it's a public property, one of the cops aggressively said that it's not. Then the cop continued to be rude and asked the guy if he had any issues. He asked for the guy's ID, which the guy didn't want to give because they had no reasonable articulable suspicion that he had committed a crime. In a hilarious turn of events, the cop actually told the guy that he had never heard that phrase before.
We don't use that phrase. I never heard those two words used together.
Wow, that's kind of scary. You know, your officer here didn't know what reasonable articulable suspicion was.
You really can't make this stuff up. When a sergeant arrived, the guy explained to him what went down. After carefully listening to everything the guy had to say, the sergeant told the cops to leave the guy alone. 6. Next up, we have a teenager, an absolute legend, by the way, calling out these cops on their inappropriate behavior. They had a problem with him filming police vehicles despite the fact that he was allowed to. So not one but two cops decided to grab him by his arm and force him to sit down on the sidewalk. The teen kept refusing to do that, saying that they didn't have probable cause. At one point, the second cop told the teen that he was being detained, but he wasn't sure why. After a whole lot of explaining, a sergeant approached the teen and told him that he was free to go.
What's your first name?
I'm not here to answer questions, sir.
Okay. Well, you're free to go at this point.
Thank you.
I apologize if you feel that you were treated improperly.
He went on to do some more explaining after that, which was basically just him making excuses. When the teen asked him why those two officers assaulted him, the sergeant had nothing to say except wish him a good day. 7. Here we have a cop commanding this guy to step out of his vehicle, while refusing to explain why. After a while, he told the guy that they were going to test him to see if he was driving under the influence. When he finally did step out of his car, he asked them why they pulled him over. The cop hesitated for a bit, and then told him that he almost hit a semi.
Because you almost hit the rear end of a semi. That's not true. You're lying to me. Okay, I'm not.
But the guy immediately called him out on his lies. The cop kept asking this guy all sorts of questions, while failing to articulate any reasonable suspicion for the stop. The guy obviously didn't want to answer any questions, and the cop had no other choice but to wait for him to change his mind. But the guy didn't change his mind because he knew that the cop was violating his rights this whole time. We don't know what happened in the end, but judging by that cop's confused facial expression, it's safe to say that he quickly let the guy go. 8. We have a guy filming some police vehicles when 4 cops got out of their car ready to harass him. But little did they know that they were about to get educated. He cited California Penal Code 148G, right from the get-go.
Oh, you know what? Bullshit. I call you on that. 148 subsection G, California Penal Code. Shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. Ask a supervisor.
And that's when they realized that he was not to be messed with. They actually told him that they just wanted to see if he needed any help, and one of them actually tried to make up a Homeland Security law, but the guy immediately called him out on that one. Then he told them that they were dismissed and to get back inside their vehicle. They argued for a bit, but eventually returned to their car and drove away.
You're gonna look stupid on the internet.
Good.
Yeah, I'll say hi to your mom. Tonight. Fucking young punks.